Looky here, a new listener. Hey, this ain't your little sister's radio station.
This is Restoration Radio International. We are an adult station dealing in the truth that mainstream media do their best to keep from you. Warning, we are not politically correct.
'Cause it's a bittersweet symphony that's life.
This is Restoration Radio International, coming to you right across the planet.
Yes, it is. Good evening. And it is coming up to 9 o'clock in the good old UK in London. We have a show tonight, believe it or not, with Tony and myself and a few other people, I believe. I'm just sort of testing the gear, as they say, and not that sort of gear either before some of your ears prick up. No, it's purely the electronic kind of gear. Right, so bear with me. Listen to a few of the songs I'm playing, just a couple of songs perhaps, and we should be up and running. I'm a bit mellow tonight. I don't know if you've guessed by the type of music I'm putting on, but I don't know, I feel a bit mellow. You know what I mean?
Hey, this ain't your little sister's radio station.
This is Restoration Radio International. We are an adult station dealing in the truth that mainstream media do their best to keep from you. Warning, we are not politically correct.
'Cause it's a bittersweet symphony that's life.
This is Restoration Radio International, coming to you right across the planet.
Right, okay. Yes, you are live. It is, what is it? It's Saturday night, isn't it?
It's Saturday night, love. Have you
Saturday
been
night,
so
yes.
yet?
It's the 2nd, yes, I have. It's the 2nd of July, and it's the day after my birthday. But it feels like I'm still carrying it on, although I am completely sober, would you believe?
You weren't last night.
Maybe not, but that's another story. Anyway, good evening and welcome to the People Show in cahoots with our eye on Islam.com. And you know the story. We're here to find out what's going on in the world, and my co-host is with me, of course. Tony, how are you?
Well, I was all right until you told me how drunk you were, and then I realised how jealous I was.
I weren't. Did you know what? Right, I wasn't that bad, believe it or not. It was. It didn't turn out to be the night I thought it was going to be, but then that very often happens, doesn't it? You know.
Often the case, yeah. The best nights are the ones you don't plan.
Are the ones you don't plan, quite right. Talking of plans. This evening, I believe we have a young lady going to join us from Australia.
Yeah, Rosalie Crestani. I've assumed that's how you pronounce it, Crestani.
Right, yeah. She's a bit controversial, isn't she? She seems to, I don't know, we seem to keep finding all these controversial people.
I think we need controversial people.
Well, yeah. I mean,
let's face it, controversial people was the people who voted to get us out of the EU. If we hadn't had controversy, we would still be in there.
Yeah, quite right. I mean, you know, it's nice to be, and I openly admit, my little button on Facebook even says, 52%. And that's
Have you got a link for tonight's show?
Have I got a what, dear?
A link for tonight's show that I can share out, love.
A link?
Yes, love.
I've got many links.
Well, I only want one.
What, for the radio or
Yeah,
what sort of link would you like?
I can put it out on Facebook and Twitter.
Okay, well I will do that. Well, it's easy really, it's just the same old link, If you go onto an old meme, you'll find one there, Restoration Radio is the link.
I'm looking, I can see Dogs of War.
Okay, well don't worry, I'll sort it out. Right, in the meantime, of course, it's pretty pointless saying this out, but I will say it. You could be listening on the app. If you're not, you won't hear what I'm saying anyway, so it don't make no sense.
I've got the link.
Right, okay. Well, it's always normally there. It's not normally far away. The people that will be listening, I'm sure. Majority of them now, anyway, a lot of them at least, will be listening on the app, to be honest with you. It is the best way to listen to it if you're not already. If you are listening on your laptop indoors, well, that's good enough as far as I'm concerned. But look, at the end of the day, we can cover a few things before, like we normally do, before any guest joins us this evening. Yes, as I was saying, she is a bit controversial, but like you say, most of our guests are just that very thing, because in a way we are anyway. Controversial in the sense that I suppose we come under that bracket because we speak our minds, so I suppose we must be controversial nowadays, and speaking the truth comes under that bracket. I just want to say, you reminded me that there is a demonstration going on at this very moment.
There is, yeah.
Up in London and what have you.
It's full of all those lovely people. There's anti-democratic people that don't like true democracy.
I mean, the thing is, what is the point? I'm not being funny, but it's going to get them nowhere. It's going to get them nowhere. There is never going to be a second referendum. Nobody
gets them a bit of media attention.
Well, I think that's all it is. I think it's just it's like it's like they've thrown their toys out the pram. We know that anyway, right? When they don't get what they want, we know what they're like. This is the action you get. I've got to say, if it remains peaceful, I'll be surprised, because normally they like to kick up a bit more fuss than that.
They certainly do like a bit of fuss.
Yeah, well, sometimes we used to call it down in London, it was an excuse to do a bit of early Christmas shopping, where they'd go and raid a few shops, and kick the windows in and that. But I don't know that these people will do that. At the end of the day, I don't really care. All I know is this: it's going to get them nowhere, right? The process has been done. Everybody that was involved in it, even Cameron and everybody else, has all said the same thing. The people have spoken. They've made a choice. At the end of the day, that's it.
Yeah, but they're not very good at accepting defeat, are they? That's the problem with a lot of the and I don't know if you saw, I put a status up a couple of days ago, and I'd been bombarded with a few messages about white supremacy, white privilege, and all that other complete pish that we don't actually have. And what I realised was that all those that are screaming that we apparently have this white privilege are actually those with white privilege. I guarantee if we was to go up there now with a camera and say, do you drive a car? Did you go to university?
Yeah.
Do you have a place that you live alone? Do you live at home with your parents? Who pays for your insurance? Guarantee they would all turn around and say, they have got a car. Mum and Dad pay for the insurance. Mum and Dad bought the car. Mum and Dad pay for the... So actually, the white privilege are the very people out there protesting about our so-called white privilege that we don't have. Whilst trying to take our democracy away at the same time.
So basically, what you're saying is that they're probably white middle class, come from a middle class background, student as well, or university and all that old business. Yeah, well... that's a given. It always seems to be that way. It's very, very unlikely that there will be... I'm not going to say there ain't any. There probably will be a lot of working class people up there. But a lot of them will be unemployed. That's what I would suggest. Look, they know what they stand to lose. Basically, it means they're going to have to get up off their arse perhaps and actually work for a living, a majority of them. I know this will probably upset a lot of people, and it might upset a lot of them. Well, let's speak. I speak as I find, you know that, right? At the end of the day, they're pissing me off anyway. So if I want to slag them off, I'm going to slag them off. This is my radio station, and I say what the hell I like until somebody shuts me up. But at the end of the day, that's my opinion, and I'm entitled to it. I'm not saying it's your opinion or anyone else's opinion. It's my opinion, and I will speak my mind.
Yeah, but have you not worked out yet? According to the left, we don't actually have a right to an opinion. Yeah, we certainly don't have a right. How very dare we think we have the right to vote out of anything? I mean, just who the hell do we think we are?
Well, this is the silliness of it, isn't it? I mean, at the end of the day, they want to preserve that right of democracy and have votes and referendums and one thing and another, and yet when they have it and they don't get their own way, it's at that point they do throw their toy, their dummy out the pram.
Did you see the girl? They questioned the girl who was out there with a banner, and she got the purple hair and she got the big teardrop under her cheek. Yeah. I said to my friend here, I said, the the big teardrop under the eye means that you've murdered somebody. So that's not good. Not a good advertisement.
I bet she doesn't know that.
But then she's sitting there and they said, name 3 things about that, 3 or 4 things about you love. And she went, NHS. And I'm thinking,
Yes.
and you want us to put this country in the hands of idiots like you?
Yeah, exactly. You see, you don't. I presume, I'm only presuming that was only on the internet. It was only on perhaps Facebook or on YouTube. But that sort of interview was not screened on mainstream media, was it? You know, I wouldn't imagine that they had that person on mainstream media like the BBC News or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe it was, but I would have said very unlikely, because what that does is it proves that up there are people that are complaining about something they don't really understand, and they're basically there because they want to be part of something. They want to be part of this group. They want to feel part of something, because for years, and probably ever since a lot of them were born, the fact of the matter is they probably don't feel part of anything.
Well, they do. They feel part of the great, what they believe. I mean, we all know they're part of the great unwashed, but they actually feel like they are part of the great neglected. But the truth is, they're part of the great spoilt.
Yeah, well, these are the
pampered.
Yeah, they're the spoilt, pampered. There was the back end of society where they are. You know, they believe that the country and the world owes them a living and a life, and unfortunately, it doesn't. But the trouble is, they believe it does, and I'm sure. And I even know people like that. You know, I know people where they don't seem to realise that that the system that is keeping them afloat is actually just designed to keep them afloat. It's not really designed as a lifestyle, which is what a lot of them use it for. You know, look, at the end of the day, right, the idea of their protest, okay, they can protest, right? Let's just see it for what it is. They're up there protesting. They're doing exactly what they have the right to do. So let them protest. Let's hope it stays peaceful.
The thing is,
and then go home and behave themselves.
Do you know what? Nobody. I wonder how many other people notice this. And I said this to Mark earlier. I said, when you look at that protest going on up there, there is nobody from the so-called far right. You know, so I do that with the inverted speech marks, air speech marks.
Yeah.
Up there, causing any kind of violence or rebuttal or tackling them and having a go at them and telling them they don't have a right. So again, the left have proved that these people they claim are far right are not the violent ones. Mm-hmm. That's been proven with what we're seeing. But they said something like they said they got something like 3,000 or 5,000 or more on there. And I looked, I thought, no, that doesn't look like 5,000 to me.
No. I mean, I saw another. There was a young girl going around. I think she was an American, and she was interviewing people up that way, up London, and she was interviewing like these lefties that are up there demonstrating and one thing and another, and she got, she got threats of violence against her. The police had to step in the end. And she hadn't actually spoken to anybody. I don't know if anyone has seen that video, but it was quite interesting. And she was just there, really, just to see what was going on, you know. And she had a cameraman with her, and she was obviously on, the side of exit, if you like. She's wearing a hat with a Union Jack on it. And that was taken off of her by some of them.
She was from Rebel. I did an interview with Faith Goldie from Rebel.
Right, okay.
Which will be due to come out on YouTube, I should say, within the next, probably by the middle of this week, they'll get a link to me and I'll get it out on Facebook. And there's a school in Canada I think it's called Frederickson School,
right,
where the so-called refugees, young men between 15 and 22, are in school with girls of 13, and 14 and 15, and they've been put in chokeholds and they've been groped and they've been hit and they've been struck and they've got segregation, and the teachers, she's putting a freedom of information, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of information about it all, So they asked me would I come on and talk to her about the problems what we've had here and how would I divert it. And I said, well, the one thing you've got to do is, unfortunately, you have to be a little bit politically incorrect in order to get rid of political correctness.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be your biggest... And she said, that's the biggest thing. Not one teacher from that school would talk to them. Not one news station's covering it. I said, but this is what we've had for years.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the subject's been about, Stephen. You know this. It doesn't matter what the subject's been about. If you're on the right, you're targeted. If you're on the left, you're patted on the head and told what a good little boy you are.
Yeah.
If you speak about the grooming gangs that have operated in this country, you're a racist. If you turn around and say there's rapists in all colours, you're patted on the head again, because yet nobody on the right's ever made it about colour.
Well, you know, this is... I mean, I said to somebody else, I said, look, we might have won a battle, but we haven't won the war. We've only just begun here, right? Coming out of the EU is a big step. It's a massive step. Let's make no mistake about that. It is a huge step. And for this country to even do it, and I've got to say, and I've said this last time on a previous show, for it to actually come out with that result, there was no one more flabbergasted than me anyway, because I was totally convinced that one way or another it was going to be rigged to stay in, right? But it proved otherwise, and I was genuinely shocked. But over the moon that's what the result was.
Well, I'm just looking at Elite now, and they reckon there was 50,000 in London. But you also have to say to yourself, look, people who are not in this country, if they're asylum seekers from Poland, etc., wouldn't have been allowed to vote. Simple as that. Now, those people would have turned out. Hence why the numbers would appear so high. But the fact of the matter is, what I can't understand, and I've asked many people on the left that are on my Twitter, you know, why do you have a problem with democracy? Yeah. They're like, we don't. I said, well, you clearly do. Because democratically, Brexit won.
Well, they don't. It's like you say, they don't. I don't think they do have a problem with democracy. I think they have a problem with the result. You know, it's not a democracy, it's a result. If they
have a problem with democracy, Stephen. How many times have they tried to shut you down or shut me down or shut somebody else down?
Yeah.
And who makes the complaints to Facebook if they see a comment that they don't like the look of? Well, it is those that are... Well, there are centre middle left, there are centre middle right. There is extreme far right, there is extreme far left.
Yeah.
But to be quite frank, those in the middle... they can actually find ways of saying, OK, we don't agree on this, but we do agree on that. Those who are far left, doesn't matter what you do, if you're centre middle, they will target you.
Well, as I said a few minutes ago, you know, we've only just begun. We've made a big step coming out of the EU, right? We've decided to come out. 79.2% people of England decided that that's what it's going to be, OK? Along with other parts of the country. At the end of the day, that was the result. It's not going to change. These people will soon find that out. They could have 100,000 up there today. It ain't going to make a blind bit of difference. It's a complete and utter waste of time. Now, I would say as well that, you know, that we've got to understand something. We've got to take something on board here. We've all created this problem. We're all part of this problem. We've all created, one way or another, we've helped to create this problem. And what I mean by that is we've helped to create it over a number of years because we've done nothing about it. We've all sat back and let it happen until now. The shit hits the fan, and now we're having to do something about it. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you also have to remember is that we were never given an opportunity to do anything about it. There was nothing we could do until this time came along. And I've tried to make this very clear to a lot of the Americans that I talk to when they say, oh, you know, why the English and the British putting up with this? Well, actually, we're not putting up with it. We are trying to do something, and there've been things that we've tried to address, and it doesn't matter what you try to do. You shout it down every single time. They don't want to hear what you've got to say. When the referendum came around, everybody who had that opportunity took that opportunity, went out, they drank themselves through 2 foot of rain in water in some areas, and they made their mark, and they made that difference when they were given that opportunity to do so. But I don't think the reason that Parliament's up in air right now and pulling its hair out by the roots is because actually not one of them thought for 1 minute that a working class man and woman would step up to the plate and say we've had enough.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
And
I
it's
totally
it's
agree
hit them like a bolt of lightning. They really do not know what to do with it at all.
Yeah, I know. I'll tell you what I will. I'll tell you what I will say. I'm still a little bit surprised that they have caved in so easily, though. Do you get the impression that the powers that be and the global elitists and the government, or whatever you want to call them, do you get the impression that they seem to have rolled over easy? Or is that the impression they're giving?
Well, no, they haven't. If they'd have rolled over easy, then David Cameron would have turned around and said, OK, we're out of the EU. This is how we're going to do it. He would have got on with it. He would have invoked Article 50. They're not rolling over easy. That's the whole point. They really are running around. And for me, for anyone who's listening, who's checking out who they would... It wasn't until Mark pointed something out to me that I even knew this.
Yeah.
But all these people that are getting, rattling around like headless chicken because of the fact that who we're going to vote for as Prime Minister, we're not going to get a say. Only Tory members will get a say. So only if you're a member of the Conservatives will you get to vote on who you want the next Conservative Prime Minister to be.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to get a Conservative Prime Minister no matter what happens. Now, for me, of all of the ones I've seen, I don't trust... Boris is out the running anyway.
Yeah.
And to be quite frank, Michael Gove stabbed him in the back as soon as he got the opportunity. So therefore, would I trust Gove? No.
Mm-hmm.
But I tell you who I do trust, and she was a Remain, and I do think it should be somebody who was voting for getting out of the...
Oh, absolutely. It has to. Even they have agreed that is the case as well, though, haven't they, in fairness?
Yeah, well, we're now coming down to two front runners at the moment, and that is Theresa May, God forbid anybody back her, because she thinks Sharia is very good for the UK. So it has to be Andrea Leadsman. If anybody doesn't know who Andrea Leadsman is, they need to go and look her up. Because we sat and watched the whole thing that night. And she was very calm, the way she approached it. And when we was talking about, because we sat through the whole EU referendum together, me and my pal, and when they did the debate, it was only on the side of Sadiq Khan and the Scottish bird that were all finger pointing and this
Scottish bird.
Well, I was going to say Scottish top, but I don't know her well enough to know whether she's a tar or not.
Are we on about sturgeon here?
No, it wasn't sturgeon. It was some other Scottish bird.
Oh, was it? Oh, right, okay. I do apologise. Carry on.
What's her name? Ruth Davison.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
But they've all got this new action with their thumbs. Have you seen it where they put their thumbs?
Yeah, they all do that at the top.
And they're all doing this. Yeah. And you've then got Sadiq Khan, and he's pointing, and this Ruth Davis is pointing, and they're all getting angry and bitter, and there's venom and spittle coming out of their mouth. Yeah. But this Andrea Leadsman kept her calm, kept her cool. She stood and stated facts. You couldn't argue with the facts she was putting forward. And I personally think if they're going to get behind anybody, that's the woman they should be getting behind.
Right. Well, it's definitely. I'm totally agree. I mean, it should definitely be obviously someone, from if you like the Leave campaign, Brexit or whatever. Where does Farage fit in all this? This is the thing I'd like to know. Somewhere along the line, that man's got to have some say somewhere.
Well, yes, but they're not going to let him. You should know this by now. They're not going to let the one man who created the referendum. I mean, had it not been for... And as you know, I'm an English Democrat, but I know, had it not been for Nigel Farage, there wouldn't have been a referendum at all. David Cameron says he would have given it to us, but he wouldn't.
No, I mean, he promised it before and we didn't get it then, but I didn't trust Cameron to tell me the time of day, let alone anything else.
I wouldn't trust him to butter my bread, if I'm honest with you. Because I know that he'd cheat and use margarine. That's how cheating.
Yeah. Well, let me just touch on this Article 50, just a little bit. But sorry, I'm a bit sidetracked because I've got the football on the left-hand side. Germany's just scored. No, I do apologise. No, I don't. Fuck it. No, I do. To you only, and the listeners, and the 2 million people that are tuned in right now. I can't
believe that. Do you know what? I'm going to have to fire you. I can see I'm going to have to...
No, it's it's there, but I'm not watching it. But I just saw him score and I thought, damn it. But there you go. Look, this Article 50, I think Graham was right when he was on the show the other week, and what he said, I think, is probably more accurate than what we give it credence, to be fair, when he turned round and he said, as far as he's concerned, the trigger for Article 50 was at the moment that the result was read out. And I think that is right. And
but I've heard other people say things that actually also made sense to me. I've had some people have said to me, to invoke Article 50 now would mean that David Cameron would then be in charge of taking control of the exit from the EU, and he's able to come back with some dodgy crap deal that we didn't want.
Technically, it's supposed to be read out or invoked, isn't it, by the Prime Minister of the day, right?
Which is really why they're, in a way, getting a new Prime Minister, regardless of it being a... I mean, look, we're going to get a Conservative, whether it had been David Cameron or one of the others.
Oh, absolutely.
If it's going to be anyone making that deal on how we trade, I would rather it be Andrea Leadsman than have it be David Cameron. Because David Cameron would... Look, let's face it, he'd sell his mother... for the price of a packet of fags if he was a smoker. That's the kind of money he is.
You see, this is why the Labour Party want to get. You see, this is my opinion, right?
The Labour Party hasn't that been a joy to watch?
We'll just say this, then we'll take a quick break. We're coming up on the half hour, right? What was I going to say? Yeah, this is why the Labour Party are trying to get rid of Corbyn, because they want to call a general election. They want to get a general election, see if they can get Labour in. And then they can get hold of this Article 50 or try and call some sort of hold up, if you like, that'll take it even further. The trouble is that the rest of the Labour Party don't even trust Corbyn, so they want him out before they want to call a general election.
Why they want Corbyn out? Because Corbyn, if nothing else, I don't want Corbyn out. Corbyn should stay. Because Corbyn will push for that Chilcot report. He will, and I do not like Corbyn one iota, but I also couldn't give a toss about the Labour Party. Yeah. And I actually think that keeping him in will see Labour destroyed. Finally.
Well, but you know as well as I do, if the Tories are bad enough at sort of getting in more and more Muslim mayors and one thing and another, and being multicultural, lovey-doveyed up and thinking the whole world lives happily ever after, then, Labour are going to be about 100 times worse.
Are you telling me it doesn't?
Well, no, they do. This is what I'm saying. But Labour, if they were in power, would be 100 times worse than the Tories. There's no doubt in my mind. You're talking about these people are more liberal than ever before. But look, you know as well as I do. I don't care what anyone says, right? They are all those three main parties. They're all on the same agenda. They all wanted to stay in the EU. Not one of them said, oh no, I think we should come out. They all wanted to stay in it. Why? Because none of them for a start have got a B plan of what they would do when they come out.
They haven't got a B plan because they wasn't expecting the public to speak. That's why. All I wanted to do was walk around singing, happy, 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 happy.
Yeah, I know. Isn't it a joke, isn't it? Well, look, listen, at the end of the day, I'm still very, very happy about it. I can't help it. I can't, sort of hold back my joy at no longer being in it. And technically, we are not in it now. In many, many ways, people think that we're still ruled by them. We're actually not ruled by them now. And there's many things we can do.
We're still in there. We are still in there.
Yes, we are, but only as a technicality, if you like.
I quite like the faux pas that Jonker keeps making, and the more faux pas he makes, the happier I am. It's like watching Comedy Gold.
Isn't it? Oh. Well, on that note, I'll tell you what we'll do. You're listening to Restoration Radio International alongside and playing out of the app right now and on the website of oureyeonislam.com.
Big it up for Our Eye on Islam.
Yes, and what we'll do is we'll take a quick break so we can visit the loo, and then we'll dig out a few more interesting questions and see who turns up. So stick with us. We'll play a couple of songs. We'll be right back with you. I'm still feeling a bit mellow now, Tone. Right.
We'll call it mellow yellow.
I'm still feeling a little bit mellow, but I'm starting to come out of it. So I'm going to play one more mellow song, a little bit more Freddie Jackson, and then I might come out of it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, I'm feeling you, brother. I'm feeling you.
Yes, that's another story. We'll come back to that after the break. See you in a bit.
This is Restoration Radio International, coming to you right across the planet.
Okay, welcome back. That slightly extended break, but we are back live. Restoration Radio International in cahoots, if you like, with our eye on Islam.com. You're with me and my co-host this evening, Tony, as you all know, and we've been joined by a very special guest, which I'm glad to welcome to the first time on the show. And her name is Rosalie Crestani. Welcome, Rosalie.
Thank you so much for having me on, and g'day to the rest of the UK and the rest of the world.
Yes, as you can hear from the accent, she's a foreigner.
No, she's English,
which is good in this case.
Yes, no,
she's English by birth, because I
yes.
mean, let's face it, they are our sister island.
Yes, I know what she. I know what she looks like. You know, I also know what she looks like. You know, so she's also very, 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 very nice. And with that,
thank you.
Now, Rosalie,
how he really means it. She's very attractive, and I'm very glad that you
Tony.
can't see us all, because I feel very envious.
Oh, thank you so much.
Now, you've been quite active, haven't you? And you're also what they would say a controversial figure. Now, that's not unusual. We do have controversial figures on this radio station, and we're glad to have that, because basically this radio station's controversial. So, you know, it's nothing new. But
well, I'm in good company. Yeah,
you certainly are. You are definitely at home right here, believe me.
Beautiful. Look, the first time that I became controversial was, and I didn't expect to be, was when I was elected to become councillor of my local council here.
Right.
And when I didn't even know that there was a mosque application to be determined as one of our first one of our first jobs of order. So when I realised that a mosque was actually going to be considered, I knew right then why I had been elected, because I knew the community would not be happy. And after 2,500 signature petition, I actually stood alone dissenting that mosque.
Really?
That was the first ever terrorist attack on Australian soil, which occurred in the ward that I oversee.
Yeah.
So it was quite a. I think the community were in outrage, and recently there's been a few other mosque applications. So, look, I've done a lot of reading about Islam, but I also served in the missions team in New York City, near the Twin Towers. And so I think living in America, I was concerned that my other family was being attacked, if you like. And so I've since then, Islam has been on the radar. And of course, after the mosque applications, just recently we've had another mosque, and that had been almost unanimously declined, which was really good to see a change in the tide here in the local council. But we've seen, unlike, you guys are really quite ahead of us. You've got high Muslim population. We've watched almost in horror at some of the things going on in your country, and all the Sharia zones you have, and people are just not learning. They weren't listening over here. And
wasn't just Australia, Rosalie. I'll be honest with you. America, Canada is now being hit with it as well. Most countries, when we were saying what was happening here and people were speaking up, every time we did, we were shouted down and we were stopped from saying anything. And then a lot of people who do speak up do find themselves on the receiving end of being arrested. And that's still happening now. And I don't know what it's. Australia is obviously much, much bigger than England and the United Kingdom. So I'm not quite sure how bad your problem is out there.
Look, our Muslim population, I believe, is still only less than 2%. So it's still quite small. And obviously, I've been trying to tell everyone too that. And there is groups that are emerging. Of course, there's many groups. Daniel Nalai was one of the first one, the leader of our party. He was one of the first ones to even talk about it because he lived in Saudi Arabia. But he's been trying to tell people, a few of us have been trying to tell people that, the more a Muslim population grows, the more that element of fundamentalism where they want to, plan attacks. And it's falling on deaf ears because it's not happening yet in many people's backyards. So, but it is slowly emerging. We are starting to get gang attacks. Yeah.
There's also sorry, Rosalie, but there's also that we have to take into consideration the demographics of each other's countries. I mean, in Australia, obviously, I mean, look at the size of it. I mean, you compare it to the UK, we're like a speck in the corner. It's like the United States. You know, we fit the whole of the UK in one state. You know, in Texas, it fits quite well, and with room to spare. And this is the problem. And then you get the what goes along with that is the extent of apathy. It's that.
Yes.
It's that feeling that, oh, you know, it's never going to be so bad here because for some reason that's how it's going to be. Well, it's only a matter of time. It just means it's going to take longer in countries which are much, much bigger. Obviously, it's noticed more here because of the size of this country. But, I mean, people forget. I mean, I don't know how many, maybe you do know how many mosques there are over the extent of Australia. I know there's over 1,500 in this country alone.
Yeah. Certainly, I don't believe it's that many, obviously, at this stage. But, I mean, really, look, I can see your point about, you know, you guys are in more close quarters. You have to get along a little bit more, for sure. But I can't see how, look, I'm concerned it doesn't take much for an extreme amount of damage to be done in, say, our cities, which are highly populated. So, you know, regardless of the country size, you know, if a country is attacked, it will be known worldwide. And so the fear that could go across. Look, I know that we are starting to wake up. I mean, after the Endeavour Hill, we had a police station that was 2 police officers were attacked, and they tried the young 18-year-old. He was ISIS inspired. He wanted to try to chop them.
Oh, have we lost her?
I think we've just.
Oh,
no, she's back. She's still there.
Sorry, we lost you slightly there.
Three months after that was the Sydney siege, if you remember. Oh, sorry. 3 months after that was the Sydney siege, which a fellow held hostage in a Lindt cafe, Jewish, of course, cafe, and they there was 2 people shot there as well, shot dead, and so there was another police. It's starting, you know.
Can I ask you a question about that, Rosalie? That particular cafe, obviously, it was a Lindt cafe. Now I know that Lindt are the only people that at the moment do not have halal certification.
Correct.
Now, by all accounts, that there was a person who'd left a matter of minutes before who was trying to persuade them to have the halal certification, and he declined. And just quickly, very quickly as well, just so you know, we have 423 mosques just in London. That's just London. That's not the rest of the UK. So that gives you, and if you're saying it's Muslims are 2% of the population, I guarantee if that's statistics you're getting from the government, you can double it. We're told they're 4%. I would say you're close in pushing closer to 8 to 10% in the UK. So do you think that attack on the Lindt show, on the Lindt Cafe, was a direct assault on the fact that they wouldn't accept the halal certification?
Look, there's different things coming out about what occurred there. I think that has a lot to do with it. It is all tied into, obviously the wanting to bring everyone into submission, of course, impose all their halal certification, but also he wanted to speak to the Prime Minister. He wanted to, make this, raise this as a threat against Australia, of course. Being a Jewish company as well, Lindt Cafe is my understanding. It was a direct, there's a lot of misinformation perpetuated through the media, and we're led to believe. I'm sorry, but it's just we're not just getting it, and I'm disappointed to see that the Australia is still not getting it now. We've just come an election. We're counting the votes. We still don't know who's government yet. We know that our Conservative government has lost quite a few seats. We lost 11 seats through this. They probably won't know for a few days. But the issue of national security wasn't high on people's radar. So it doesn't take long for people to forget.
That's right.
So, my problem, what will it take? Will it take loss of a family relative for?
You see, this is what we've been saying for quite some time now, especially on this radio station, and also with our brothers and sisters over in the States. What will it take? 9/11 wasn't good enough, when thousands of people got killed there. You know, as you know about our soldier that was beheaded on a London street in broad daylight wasn't enough, and I think that was the most abhorrent thing I've ever witnessed in my entire life. You know, it's hard to say, isn't it? I mean, it just goes to show you the level of apathy, and also the level of people's you know, interest, if you like. It tends to go out of
I don't think it's interest.
Minds.
I genuinely don't think that. I think to a degree we've kind of accepted that atrocities happen, and we kind of go, we are typical of the English and British, where we go stiff upper lip and keep on going on, and let's just keep going forward, and hopefully it'll sort itself out. And it doesn't work. It's proved not to work. But what I will say is this, that I don't know whether have you had any grooming gangs out there or not, but we had Raheel Raza on a few weeks ago, and she's from Canada now. She's a Muslim woman, and she calls it exactly as it is. She wore a dress, the whole issue. She does not dress it up. It's warts and all. She does not make any apologies for it. She gets as many... I mean, I've got an organisation called Maurice, which a lot of people in Australia and America know of. And she's coming over to do a conference, which I'm holding in October. And what I found amazing was that when she turned around, she said, you know, a lot of the problem with the West is white guilt, white shame. I said, yeah, but Raheel, you're Pakistani heritage. You can say that. The minute we say it, you're a racist. Even though it's a statement of fact, being able to say it. Are you finding this political correctness where you are? And is there any grooming gangs out there?
Well, look, political correctness is a scourge on worldwide. So, look, I believe that, you know, it's going back to what you were saying about, you know, getting arrested as well. There is, it is pushing towards that point. I mean, thank goodness, Daniel Nalai. I just wanted to cover this because it was a good point that you made, that we can't even have the argument now. And Daniel Nalaya, the leader of Rise Up, he actually was taken to court in 2002 for quoting violent verses out of the Quran, and for holding a conference exposing Islam. And I was, you know, and obviously when he went to VCAT, which is our state tribunal, they said, you apologise or you go to jail for 6 months for quoting violent verses out of the Quran. He said, well, I'll go to jail, but let's just say I'm not going to, I'm going to keep pursuing this. He took it to Supreme Court. In 2007, he won. So 5-year court battle, $2.1 million spent on legal costs. A third of that was his own from donations. He won that, a right to criticise the Quran. So in Australia, we actually, and it set a precedence for court cases actually worldwide, 83 court cases it's used, his precedence. So thank God that he had that win. If he had not had that win, there would be more people taken to court. So we can be less political correct here because of that. But mind you, it is now pushing to the fact that it may be tested. Who knows?
You will start to lose it. I will warn you now. You will start to lose your political, your ability to be slightly politically incorrect, which I live my life by a rule of being as politically incorrect as possible. And that doesn't mean being abusive. It means you have to push the boundaries. Canada are finding it's the same, where they're starting to get laws come in, and laws are being put in place to stop people having opinions and shut down any discussion.
Yes.
Yeah, but a major factor with us, though, Tony, with that was the fact that we was in the EU. And these people could go over to the European Court of Human Rights and say, oh, you're hurting my human rights. I need to go and find a safe space to go and sit in so I can cry and sit in the corner and suck my thumb.
Yeah, but to be fair, you also have to blame the so-called feminists for that. And I will call out that they're not feminists. They are feminazis. I will never call them feminists.
But you see, listen, Rosalie, come on. The Aussies are different, aren't they? They're a different breed, you lot. Come on. Listen, if there's one thing you lot do is you stick together. This is what I believe, and I honestly believe that when the soft stuff hits the fan, if you like, I just believe that the majority of Aussies will pull together. They'll come together. I mean, look how you lot come together when you play us at rugby and cricket, you know.
Look, you know, we are tough, and we do stick together. We like to have a good time, but don't mess with us.
Exactly.
That's how I see it. I think, you know, we are unique as well. I mean, we tend to get along quite well. We do. And I think that I don't think that whole push for don't hurt my feelings is taken so much by the Aussie public. They won't stand for it because we're very blunt. We can be very blunt, but we can be very laid back and you say, just get on. She'll be right, mate. We'll get on with it.
Absolutely.
But there is an element that is not vigilant enough about what the concerns are. That
it can be laid back too far, perhaps sometimes.
Yeah, and our birth rate. So the non-Muslim birth rate is quite low here.
Same as England.
Yeah, and it doesn't take you guys are ahead because as in that sort of grew quicker than it has here, and of course we just have to be vigilant of that because again the higher the population. I met many Muslims over the course of my career as a counsellor, and yesterday I spoke to many, and I was brave enough to ask them because one of our at Rise Up Australia, one of our policies is no Sharia law. We don't think it should exist. The scary thing is that the Muslims are using a loophole in our laws. In Victoria, a statutory rape law in order to marry 12-year-olds. So we have to close that. It's disgusting. And so now we have to close that. I was just talking to a few Muslims yesterday when I was handing out for the election. And I said, we believe in equal rights for women here. So that's why we don't want Sharia law, amongst other reasons. But they were grabbing it quicker than I could give it to them because they too, many Muslims are living under that. They've come from that.
Of course.
It's just that small part that they're imposing on everyone. And of course, the problem is, though, the moderates and the mild Muslims are being bullied by the bigger ones. So they all become quite a threat too if push comes to shove. So that's why I'm concerned also about about
we do have there's a lady who I'm very fortunate enough to call a friend, is a lady called Baroness Cox. And Baroness Cox has been battling Sharia law in this country now for quite some time. And between myself and her, I've had a lot of Muslim women come to me who have been victims of marriage fraud. They've been, one Muslim lady I'm dealing with at the moment was forced to marry a rapist because of Sharia law operating in this country. Now, when Baroness Cox has gone to Parliament and she had her bill the first time and Parliament wouldn't touch it, the odds were against her, were so stacked against her, but we have managed to get it into the House of Lords, into the Commons. But what they're trying to do is bury it at the bottom of a pile so as not to actually talk about it. Then you've got the Muslim Council of Britain. Now, the Muslim Council of Britain are saying, well, we want reformed Sharia councils, and we're going to call them councils, not courts. And actually, it's a very dodgy way of saying, well, it's still Sharia courts, but we're going to call it councils because they're counsellors. And that we're going to have them regulated. We will self-regulate. No, do you not see that's the problem? You cannot self-regulate it because you accept it. If you want
a dictatorship, wouldn't it?
If you want it regulated, how about you let me come in and I'll tell you where you're cocking it up? That would make more sense to me. But they're not going to accept that.
Do you know I sat down with the Islamic Council of Victoria? We had lunch in Parliament, of all places. Because they wanted to try to bridge the gap. And I'm concerned that this council will become, as you said, be the authority. They're the ones that took Daniel Nalaya to church. Wouldn't that be interesting? took him to court. But we sat down to lunch and I questioned them directly. They were very good at listening to what I had to say. But I said to them, I asked them straight out, why do you want Sharia law here? And they said, we don't want Sharia law. Just shrouded in deception. And I said, and they go, but I said, but why do you have such extreme laws like chopping hands off with theft? And they said, that doesn't happen. And I said, it doesn't at all. I've got evidence it happens. He goes, no, that's just to scare people. It's just bizarre that the language that they use. And
they will do anything to dodge. One of the questions that I've asked, I've spoken to many Muslims, but I had a lady come along to the conference. I had two Muslim ladies. One had been a victim of Sharia. The other one wanted Sharia. Now, what I wanted to do was, and that's why I do these conferences, rather than taking it out on the streets, I wanted to get conversation and dialogue opened up.
That's good.
And what I also want to do is, as I've said to many people that I've spoken to, look, you keep asking us, we need to understand where Muslims are coming from. No. You need to understand where does the anger come from non-Muslims. And it comes from what's being pushed upon us. And until you understand that, we can't address the problem. And that's why I like Raheel. It's why I like Shireen Kadozi. They are doing just that. They are tackling that and they are listening. But when you've got somebody sitting there going, well, yes, but it doesn't say that in the Quran. Yes, but he doesn't
No.
say that in Hadith. Yes, but he doesn't say that. But no,
shouldn't
you're
we-
out of context misinterpretation, which are the two favourite words.
You can never win then, can you?
Shouldn't we really be, I mean, in some respects, taking a bit of history into context here? Because at the end of the day, it's pretty similar. It's pretty obvious to me, really, that a lot of what they use are fear tactics anyway, right? There is no doubt that they are committing these atrocities. You know, there's no doubt whatsoever. I mean, they're killing people every single day. But the facts remain is, if you go back in history, let's just take one thing quickly. You know, not all we've said this before, not all the Germans were Nazis, right?
That's right.
But what flag would they have been waving if,
Correct.
you know, the Germans would have won the war? It wouldn't have been the Union Jack, and it wouldn't have been the Stars and Stripes. It would have been the Nazi flag, because if they didn't do that, then they would have been treated exactly the same way as what we would have done.
I agree.
You know,
I
That's
agree.
right.
But
we have to look at that.
there is something you also have to take into consideration here. There were a lot of Germans who actually turned against the Germans and sided with the West, and actually, and that's what you've got when you look at Rahil. That's what you've got when you look at Shireen Kadozi. They are the people actually standing up and saying, "Do you know what? I will come over and will stand with you, and I will stand with you in unity against what is happening." The problem you've got is, how can you? I deal with a lot of apostates, Rosalie, a lot of apostates, and they are having to live double lives in this country, because if they don't, there's the fear of reprisal from the community, fear of reprisal from the family, fear of fatwas. And one of the guys I've been talking to over the recent weeks, he's gay, but he can't say he's gay, because obviously they like to throw gays off buildings. Two, he told me himself, now this I've never heard of before until he told me, is that Muslim women who by nature are petite in build but have large busts are seen as being whores, and a large bust is a punishment from Allah.
Oh my gosh.
Therefore, they are not marriageable material. They can't be married because their bust is too big, and they are whores. So you kind of sit and go, these women, there are a lot of Muslim women who the power lies in Muslim women, as just as I believe it does, and Stephen will tell you, I believe that the power lies in the strength of women overall. I believe the strength lies in the men prepared to push the women to the forefront, because we stand to lose the most if we continue to let Islam dominate every part of our world.
That's exactly right. I mean, this is cyclic, right? Because the Muslims do come and emerge every however many hundreds of years, and because we forget the history, we say it's sort of ancient now. The history, we forget that there was scourge after scourge, and we look back, even the Americans, they pushed back against it. When they were defending their interests overseas back in a few hundred years ago. Right. So it emerges in different places, and we just forget it's the same old crap, different day. But it just needs to be, we have to speak honestly, and we have to be willing to fight. And you guys are, and I'm you know, same old thing. They're bullying the other ones, just like the Nazis bullied the whole people. You know, the whole people, even the ones that didn't agree with them. We just have to stand up and say enough's enough. And I'd just like to see those feminists get on side with us.
Feminazis, can you call them correctly, please? Feminazis, they're not feminists. I refuse to allow them to hijack that word, because the colours of Marius, which is Mothers Against Radical Islam and Sharia, is the colours of the suffragettes. And the suffragettes were the epitome of what true feminism is about. And the fact that these so-called feminists, they are Nazis. They just hate men and wish they had penises. They have got genuine penis envy. And quite frankly, I would sooner not have one. I think it gets in the way, and I don't think I would want to be a man.
Surely there's more to it than that, Tony. Come on.
Do you really think that? No, I really don't.
Possibly. I think there's a lot of hurting women out there. There have been hurt by men. But I just, it's time for, I think, a worldwide reformation against I think Islam has to be reformed. As I said in one of the articles, it needs a disclaimer. And in fact, I think that was Lord Christopher Monckton's first idea. So I stole that from him. So if he's listening, I'm so sorry.
I think
Christopher, but,
it's definitely got to be. It's got to be understood better. I think the whole problem here is a belief, if you like. It's a bit like all the lefties' belief, that we can all go around and love each other and everybody can get on and live happily ever after on this spinning rock, man. It's just not going to happen because, I can't, and forgive me for this, but I can't remember, and I've certainly looked in history where the human race has ever got on all together happily ever after before in its history. I don't think it's, you see, because we're all, we're all different. We all have our own ways. The fact of the matter is, let's put it in a nutshell, Rosalie. Australia is the same as this country. It's the same as America. We are sovereign nations. Therefore, it is illegal for us to give away any sovereign power to a foreign body. And these people that have done that are nothing more than traitors. And it's as soon as this comes out, the better, because that's exactly what it is, whether people like it or not. Our constitutions were written many, many years ago by our forefathers to protect us from that very thing. We all have that God-given right. No one can take that from us. And the problem is, you see, over many, many years, we've been indoctrinated in our schools, which are no more than indoctrination centres. Yes, they have made us accept this multiculturalism, which is a failed experiment. It doesn't work. And it only works to a degree. It only works when people that come from other countries want to fit in. It's an old saying, and you probably know it, and that is, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Right?
Absolutely.
Now, you can have your religion if you want to practice it behind the privacy of your own home and in your own church, if you like, whatever. We've always done that. We have always been multicultural countries right from day one, right? None of us are purebred this, that, or the other, okay? But what I'm saying is, if we have a system in place that is protected from change, then Sharia law, it's common sense. It cannot possibly be accepted in either of our countries. There are things in that Sharia law which are abhorrent to us and also illegal in our countries.
Absolutely.
How can we accept something, Rosalie, which is illegal? Please carry on.
So Islam is religion, culture, and law. So if we have to look at the language too. So multiculturalism assumes that we accept all cultures. We accept all heritages. That's what I would.
Yeah. We might have lost her again there. She may come back. Oh, she's come back. Sorry, Rosalie, we lost you for a few seconds.
But your culture defines that you. Oh yeah. Yeah, sorry, it's probably the area where I live a bit hilly. So in regards to the language that we use, so because Islam is religion, culture and law, by accepting all cultures, they fall under that banner that they'd like us to accept the culture of Islam, because it is a culture, it's all encompassing. Yeah. So that's the thing. We've tried to change the language by saying multi-ethnic, one culture, so we can come together from all around the world, but we celebrate one vision, one culture, and so that they need to come. But I think it's very hard until the population of the Muslims actually reduce in the country or are stemmed. It is difficult to be able to say that we could live side by side, because there is always that element that will read the Quran literally. And take that and as a good follower of a faith, you need to, I guess, read your book faithfully. But that's the concern. Absolutely. I just wanted to go back to, have a look at something, because they are, if your country, my country, were built on Judeo-Christian values, right? I think that's fair to say. Recently, we've seen the secularization that has really just swept through in the last, 50 years in both countries. And so I seem to think that Islam is filling a vacuum of people want to believe in a faith, want to believe in a God in a way, but there is this shift away. There's been a shift away from the Christian values, and of course it's starting to find that Islam is emerging as something that will fill that vacuum whether people like it or not. So I'm concerned that if people aren't going to return to their Christian roots, and the what built our countries, then they will fall to Islam, and whether they like it or not. So, yeah, I just wanted to put that in because I thought it was important to address a wide.
I have to say personally, I mean, I myself, I was never christened, and I chose never to have a religion. But what I will defend is my country's right to remain a Christian country.
Absolutely.
And I will defend that vehemently without backing down in any way, shape or form. What I find quite shocking is, for example, we've already proved that multiculturalism doesn't fail. And you're not unlike me, where I say I like a multicoloured country, but there are some cultures that will not fit with the culture of the very country where you're bringing it in. Now, I got some stats sent to me. I would love to tell everybody my source. I can't. Believe it, I know, it's very intriguing. I move in some very unusual circles, as Stephen will tell you. But I can tell you now, there are 57,000 Afghanistans in Greece right now. They are all aiming to get into the UK.
My goodness.
There has already been an attempt at stoning a woman. Sharia is being applied. Christians over there are being forced, whether they like it or not, to participate in Ramadan because the Greek authorities are taking the food aid that we're sending over, and that's being given out to people during the Ramadan hours. There is young boys being sold for €2 an hour to men. Most of them are men, very few are women and children, apart from the boys, and that's nothing unusual where they send the younger male first. And what I see when I see these hordes of immigrants coming into the country, I don't see asylum seekers, I don't see refugees, I see soldiers. That is what I see. Now, that doesn't mean to say there isn't some asylum seekers in there. I'm sure there are. But as I asked, I took on a guy, I don't know if you've come across him yet. You might have done, Rosalie. I don't know if you're on Twitter, but there's a guy called Mohammed Ansar.
Yeah, I've heard of him, yeah.
He's very well liked in the UK. We love to hate that man. Oh, do we just love to hate that man. Now, I took him
It's
on...
about as popular as herpes.
Yeah, that's always good. And just as irritating, But I actually took him on in a debate on Russia Today. And one of the funniest things the man is proved to be a liar and a fraud. But when I ended it, I made sure that I was the one that was going to get the last word. And when I did, I said to him, what I want to see is some Christian refugees coming into the country. Yeah, and I'd like somebody to explain to me, why are we not getting Christian refugees into the country? Why is it that the majority of the refugees we're getting are Muslim?
They're actually killing them all, that's why. They're killing all the Christians in the Middle East, aren't they, really? Well,
there's a lot of that going on as well, unfortunately. But they can't. I mean, in Turkey, it's over 1 million. They're trying to get in through here. And the frightening part was the 57,000 at the moment are in Greece. Of them, when this person went out and he went around and he was asking questions, are there any ISIS? And everybody blatantly, it was almost complacent. Yeah, of course there is. We know this. Most of them are ISIS. Most of them are extremists. Most of them are radical. It was just such a blasé way of looking at him. And what I'm hoping, fingers crossed, to be able to go out to Canada to give some talks out there because.
Okay.
I'd love to come to Australia, but I don't have Australian flight money to be able to do that because it's quite expensive.
We'll have to keep that on. We have to keep that in now. Yeah.
All right, ladies. Listen, at this point, I'd like to take a quick break, if I may. We've got a few people that are texting me at the moment. I need to look through some of the questions, and not only that, I want to get Tony to restart her camera because she's gone green on me. You look like an alien at the minute, Tony. You can't even see it. All right, listen. You're listening to Restoration Radio International in connection with our website that we are. Who does a lot of the work in the background, actually, and that's ourionislam.com. And we're with also a very special lady from Australia, Rosalie Crestani, and we'll be right back with you after this short break. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Well, looky here, a new listener. Hey, this ain't your little sister's radio station.
This is Restoration Radio International. We are an adult station dealing in the truth that mainstream media do their best to keep from you. Warning, we are not politically correct.
'Cause it's a bittersweet symphony that's life.
All right, you're back with us live on Restoration Radio International and our eye on Islam.com, and it is Saturday evening still over here in good old England, which is where I am operating from a bunker somewhere over in London, out the way, learning to speak the Queen's English so people understand me better.
It's the coal bunker that he's actually coming to you from, the coal bunker.
All right, don't tell everybody. I've still got an outhouse. All right, for those that remember outhouses.
Yes, to the French, that would be the netty, wouldn't it?
Yeah, the netty.
Yeah.
The netty. All right, well, we have got Tony with me this evening, my co-host, and obviously a lovely lady. We can't see you. I'm really sort of quite frustrated about that because normally
you don't want to see me very early.
Well, from the benefit, yes, of course, we have to take that into consideration. It's getting on for Sunday over there, isn't it? Or is it?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, we tend to forget this time difference.
Yeah, Sunday morning after Saturday night's never a good look, is it, Rosalie?
Well, it's been a busy day yesterday. We just contested our federal election, so it's been a busy day.
Listen, how do you see this? Do you know? I've got to be honest. I'm embarrassed by her name. Slips me right now. The lady that's creating a lot of attention over there right now, and she's standing against the Prime Minister of the day.
So you're talking about Pauline Hanson?
Yes, I think it is.
Pauline Hanson. So look, she's already won a seat, which is great. I can see that she's won a seat in the Senate for Queensland. She's not contesting against the Prime Ministership, obviously, as in the Senate, but she has certainly been a voice in the nation for many years.
Yeah.
And we really admire. We worked closely with One Nation, the party that she represents.
Right.
She's been talking about the concern about, groups that perhaps don't assimilate. For quite some time she has, and Islam has been on her radar.
It has, hasn't it? I mean, I followed her a little while ago to see what she was doing and see how she was getting on, and she's certainly ruffling some feathers out there, isn't she? It's
always good. We can't just accept what's fed to us. We do have to ruffle feathers, and it's important. So she's been a good voice. She's been a very important voice, and I think there will be others elected in the Senate. What the government tried to do, they dissolved both houses, all the Senate seats or both houses of Parliament, and so now they thought they were going to sweep out in a sweeping tide all the rabble, that didn't fit into the two majors. Well, it's probably going to work. Even now, we're going to see even more rabble, if you like, in a good way. And I think that the people won't be silenced in Australia. They're using the miners and the independents to get a voice into those, the two majors that just, as you're probably seeing, you just need someone like UKIP here, and you need those extra voices, or else we're just going to be. They're not telling the whole truth too.
No,
the two majors, as in they're not. Sorry, should I rephrase that? They're concerned about, I guess, the issues that same old issues. But national security is high on people's concerns, but maybe not high enough because their votes weren't really reflecting their concerns. So look, but the miners coming in will certainly be a voice, and Pauline Hanson is going to be one of them.
Yes, I think so. I mean, I'm of the belief. I mean, I could be wrong, but with me, I think it's more of a case of, because we know how bad our mainstream media is at putting out the story that the government want to put out, rather than the truth, and hide the truth, if you like, which they've been doing all over the world. But with me, Australia, I think it's more along the lines of, the more people you wake up out there, the more they're going to turn around and not be so laid back, if you like, and suddenly wake up and go, well, hang on a minute, because that seems to be what the Australians are like. They will all stick together, and they will all pull together and be as one and stick to that. Because, as I say, I that's how I see the Aussies mainly. And put it this way, like, to cut a long story short, they don't take shit normally.
No, we don't. And, you've seen us in the world wars. Gallipoli, for instance, we're tough. And Beersheba, the charge on Beersheba, no water, and we mowed those ottomans down. So
Absolutely.
look, look, just even on a small local issue in Australia, with when the dairy farmers were getting a raw deal on their milk, and we found out about it as a nation, we came together and we started backing behind the farmers in a huge way. So just a small indication that there was concern about our group. We need to harness that in so many different avenues in order to just capture their attention. And I don't want to see a terrorist attack capture the attention in that way, but it may take that. When we see
we can never, it doesn't matter how well we try and say that we can do our best to stop it. I don't think we can ever stop totally a terrorist attack. I think it's something which is, when you don't know, when your enemy doesn't dress with a uniform which is of an enemy, then it's very difficult to spot who's doing what. I don't think you can totally prepare for it. I think you can tighten up, I thought Australia was going to go ballistic when they found out that Vegemite was halal. But apparently that didn't work.
Well, I have gone ballistic because I no longer buy it, and I don't buy our top chocolate brand. And my poor kids aren't actually.
What I will say is that I put out a link, and the way Steve and I slightly differ on our opinion, because he doesn't think England do stand together. I actually think that we proved that with the Brexit. I think we proved that actually, we can stand together. Because
absolutely,
yes, we've got the bleeding heart left. Woe is me, my life is so terrible because mummy and daddy didn't buy me a Porsche and I asked for one, which, as you can imagine, breaks my heart deeply when my.
Well, we've proved 52% stands together, Tone. This is the thing.
Yeah, but that
right?
what you got to remember: 52% stood together. You haven't taken into account how many who weren't even registered to vote.
No, I
probably
agree.
shared the same agreement. So it would probably have been much higher than that. Then you've got to take into consideration that even in Australia with elections, you're going to have opposition.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're going to have one country all voting one way. If that was the case, there wouldn't be any need for any election.
Sure.
So there is always going to be this slightly disjoint between opposition left and right.
It has to be that way.
It's always been the way. It has been that way since time immemorial. So we have always had that. But in the words of Margaret Thatcher, where there is discourse, we must bring harmony and unity.
Right.
And we need to bring that. Now, I think that what Brexit showed is that we did bring unity, because what they were the reason Parliament is so up in arms, Rosalie, at the moment, and pulling their hairs out. Literally. I mean, they must have gone bald overnight.
Oh, yeah.
Because they actually thought that the Remain was in the bag. That it was
and that's why they so confidently opened the polls, didn't they?
That's why they went, yes, let's have that referendum. They'll never bloody win it anyway. That was one attitude. Then there was the fact that David Cameron wouldn't take on Nigel Farage in a debate. Now, I'm actually an English Democrat. I'm not a UKIPper, but I know that without Farage, there would have been no referendum. He forced it on. He kept pushing, and he has been sidelined. And there is one Australian chap called Mark Rowley who listens in regularly, and he keeps saying, Farage for Prime Minister. And I keep trying to explain that politics doesn't work like that.
No,
that unfortunately, at the moment, we are going to get another Conservative Prime Minister.
And you never know one.
And Bojo's counted himself out.
Yes, old Boris Johnson.
Old Bojo, yeah. Thank God for that. He was the classroom idiot. He was the gopher. If you remember that they were all at university together. Don't forget. Yeah.
Go. As far as I'm concerned, yes, he fought a good fight, but Gove has proved that he will stab anyone in the back to achieve what he wants to achieve.
Yeah, but they all do.
But he also had the leaked email from his wife, which might as well have said, "You've got this in the bag, love. You're definitely the new Prime Minister."
Yeah.
That will make... What they've got to also understand is that this public has just shown you that we have gone against you once, and the Conservatives who voted to leave will go against what they want again. And I think that Andrea Leadsman actually has a very good chance. I know it's a two-woman race right now between Theresa May and Andrea Leadsman.
Good.
I would like to see him back Andrea Leadsman. But those of us who aren't, unfortunately, I'm not a Conservative member, thankfully. I'm very proud to say I'm not. The same as I would never be a Labour supporter. But those who are, we are now in the mercy of those. you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So where that's going to go, I don't know. But what do you think the Brexit has done with regards to? Because everybody, I've got to be honest with you, everybody was watching, and people got quite frustrated with me because I turned around and said, England led the way. And a lot of the Scottish and the
Absolutely.
Irish got very upset with me, and I said, hang on a minute, if you look at the percentage of votes, 73% of that vote came from England. It didn't come from Northern Ireland, Wales, or
Yeah.
Scotland. So the English
Yeah.
did lead the way.
Well,
And I
the
believe
news over here is actually portraying that it was the English vote. The Scots, I hear, want to have. Well, look, I don't know what to believe about our media, but the Scots wanted to again do an independence vote. Is that right, or
Yep.
is that
Yep.
just
Yep.
so
Free
now?
Jimmy
I just
Cranky.
thought it's you can't have it both ways. They voted against it only a few years ago, and then all of a sudden. And I have a great deal of respect for the Scots. And mind you, I know this must be a very difficult time for everyone, but I think that it was good to see that Brexit occurred. I know a lot of the Aussies, and we have a high UK immigration rate here, which is great. And I think it may even played well in ensuring that tipped over the edge too, the votes as well. So look, as far as what we can gather, we thought it was a great show of leadership from the UK. Now we actually made a call here through our party to actually leave the UN. We thought, great, we want to leave the UN now because we don't want to be told how many people and they should come in our country, especially with regards to whether we can't filter them fully as well. We have to take a certain amount, and there's calls to take so many more than our population can really gather, and our health system is suffering. We're in $1 trillion worth of debt. Who knows? I'm not fully sure about that figure, but we just need to we just need to actually take back control. You guys have done it, and look, I'm watching with with awe, and
I have to say
to see
that
where you go.
it's not about it, and this is what I've got a lot of friends who are Scottish. I've got a lot of friends from Northern Ireland, and I've got a lot of friends from Wales, and I've got a lot of friends from England.
Sure.
But it's not the Scottish people. There is a percentage of Scottish people, and what Nicola Sturgeon, or as we like to call her, Wee Jimmy Cranky, is actually trying to do is she's trying to wield the power. And what she did was she went, and there was her and Sadiq Khan, who is now the Lord Mayor of London. And they wanted to, you have the London City, which is a city within a city.
Yeah.
And London City itself voted to stay in the EU, so they wanted to join forces and become Scotland.
Oh, okay.
And I turned around, I actually tweeted Sadiq Khan, I said, first of all, you don't get to take the capital city away from this people, and you don't get to give the capital city away to anybody. You certainly do not get to give it away to Nicola Sturgeon, who quite frankly is a disgrace to her own country, let alone this country. But she did want her independence. She wants the independence, and so does her Scottish National Party, and they are pushing for that. And I think a lot of Scottish nationalists think if we get our independence, we can stop this influx of Islamic immigration. The truth is, if they do this and she takes you back into the EU, you will get a bigger flood.
Sure.
And
Scotland doesn't have the economy. Scotland doesn't have the economy to go into the EU anyway. It doesn't qualify. This is no.
The EU turned their back on them. The EU said they're not interested. Go away.
Yeah, they don't have the economy to actually. They don't actually qualify. So
may I
was a
say,
smokescreen, really.
That the Scots traditionally too. I mean, we have a rich Scottish heritage here in Australia. I know that there was a Scottish heritage when there was that charge on Beersheba in the Light Horsemen, right? Back in World War One, and so I know that this is a heritage. This is a people that can't be messed with either. So when you've got a few leaders trying to dictate to the whole people what they should be doing, it's the same old Nazi tricks, isn't it? It's hopefully the people can rise up and get their voice heard. It would be good to see. But
it certainly is. The clues are in the history books. Which is why they've tried to take this all away from the children over the years, over decades, and we're trying to make us, if you like, it's hypocritical. It's a denial of history, teaching your kids that, we shouldn't be proud of our heritage, and then on the other hand, they're going up and laying wreaths at the cenotaph every year, which is a complete hypocrisy of the whole thing in my book. And the thing is, these people have got to be seen for what they really are. And I'll touch back quickly on the fact that I said earlier on that we're sovereign nations, and it's a complete illegal thing to do, to give away power of any kind from a sovereign nation to any other foreign power. This was the main reason I said this earlier on, people said to me, did we really vote to come out just so we could have a change of head of government, i.e. get rid of Cameron? No, that was not my main thing. It certainly wasn't. It was a side issue. It was like Tony just said, it was a bonus, if you like. I mean, he couldn't do anything else. He had to resign once the people decided that we'd gone against him. It was basically a vote of no confidence, so he has no position and he has to resign. It's something, he's accepted it. We've got thousands of people up in London today demonstrating. The great unwashed are up there today.
Do you get them too, do you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Liberal lefty lobbies.
Yeah.
Oh,
up there
God,
sucking their thumbs and spitting them, throwing their toys out because they
And
believe in
they're
democracy.
leading the charge,
Yeah.
sir. Mr. Geldof, who has thrown his knighthood in the face of the Queen and said, I don't want it, and has chucked his toys well and truly out the pram. This is a man who was on a boat goading our fishermen who have suffered immensely because of the EU.
Yeah.
One of the places that you wouldn't have seen it, Rosalie, I don't think, but they were showing the map, and I have to say, I sat through the whole thing, me and my friend here, and David Dimbleby's face was an absolute picture as he was declaring each victory that came in. You could see this man, his ego slowly being stripped away from it. It was fantastic to watch.
Yeah, it was a complete shock to him. Complete
not,
shock.
Not that I get pleasure from other people's misery, just some people's misery. But what was something that I have been saying to people for a very long time and people would not listen is there's a place in England called Lincolnshire. Lincolnshire is a farming area. It's farming industry. It's mostly flat. It's where all your vegetables are grown. It's where a lot of it is shipped out to different parts of the world. And there's a small town called Boston. And in Boston now, you barely hear an English accent. There is Romanian, Lithuanian, Polish, Portuguese, every accent, but barely an English accent is heard.
Okay.
And that was not far off of being 100% for getting out. Why? Because when they bring in the immigrants in to say that, and they always use this famous line, it's because they'll do the work that the English won't do. And I excuse my language, but that's bullshit.
Yep.
It's not that the English won't do the work. The English want a fair day's pay for a fair day's work.
Sure.
When you get somebody from Poland come over, man on his own, he's got, I don't know, say 10 kids in Poland with his wife, and he goes and he works the land. Yes, he works it for the same price that you work it. But the difference is you've got a family here to keep. And he's there claiming working tax credits, child benefit, all of that is being shipped out. When he goes back over to Poland, he gets all that tax he's paid back. The English don't get that. So the people's attitude was, why should I go and break? And it is, I've done land work, trust me, it is breaking. And it's hard graft. And why would you go and do a hard day's graft where you've got to walk maybe 20, 30 miles to meet up with a gangbang to take you to a field where you're going to graft all day for something like...
What's your national debt?
What's our
considering a lot of the...
hang on, I'll ask you may know. Do you know what our national debt is? Because you did tell me the other day. It's about 3 trillion.
Right. It's not exactly change, is it?
It's not.
So,
no.
So that all those benefits are going out of the country, but it's interesting. So they obviously rich in other heritages, but taking the work, but they still voted for Brexit.
They didn't vote for Brexit. What happens is you get a very small town, and the people who originally lived in that town slowly get pushed out of that town, and they start to move to the little villages that surround that town. So the people who surround that town would have voted to leave, but those who were for Poland wouldn't have been permitted to vote.
Oh, yes, of course, yeah.
So, of course, their votes wouldn't have had any votes. So, therefore, Boston actually had one of the almost, I mean, it wasn't far off of 100% vote to get out. You have to sit there and go, and when you look at the people who are up in London, I believe there was about 50,000 of them in London protesting about the fact that we won the vote, we won the referendum. And they're absolute outrage, and they're singing things like, all we are saying is giving you a chance. Well, you had a chance, and
Yes,
you
that's
cocked
it.
it up. You destroyed our country. Now, we want to build our country back up. We want our country to be great again.
Yes, as does many other European nations too.
Absolutely. We want that pride back. And Australia must feel the same.
Absolutely. We don't want it to be too late. And we're already starting to see many signs that it could go that way. And look, I think our saving grace is our isolation as a landmass. And I think that's
Yes,
we
it
could be
is.
grateful.
It does make a
You know,
difference.
yes, certainly. I mean, you're a stone's throw really from everything. So, look, with regards to our government, I admire their stance on strong borders. I don't know if we know the full story about if we're truly getting, if there's immigrants, because we're seeing also is a lot of Sudanese gangs that are emerging. So you're talking about certain gangs. We've had an increase in gang activity in that way. We've a lot more burglaries, carjackings, some murders, and it's happening in the main cities, even out in the suburbs, even here in Melbourne. That may just be something that you guys dealt with, I guess, in the earlier days as well. Perhaps it's happening in larger, in larger amounts. But I guess that's an indication of, they are, look, and it's not all the Sudanese. I just want to be clear about that. I'm not trying to paint one ethnic group, but it's undeniable that it is a Sudanese ethnic group that is roaming the streets, and so there is people harnessing that in order to, I think, even there's understanding there's some of the bikie gangs are harnessing that, but I guess the point is if people are going to come to this country, if they're not born here, if they're going to mess up, then they go back and that's it. So you get a chance to come here and abide by Australian law. And I think we're starting to see those measures unfold, which is great. We just need to stick by them and before it's too late.
You know, I remember a while back there was an Australian Prime Minister, and I can't remember his name, but I remember he put in a statement out, and it stuck in my mind, and I think it was a few years back now, but this is before it got really sort of bad or even noticeable in Australia. And his words were, come to Australia, then you abide by our rules and our laws. And the final words he said was, which I've always remembered, he said, if you don't like it, you can always evoke your right to leave. And
Look, if it was a Prime Minister, it might have been either John Howard or Tony Abbott.
Yeah, so. It could well have been Tony Abbott. It was one of them anyway from back then. And it all sorted. And then everybody, I thought to myself at the time when that statement got read out, and I thought to myself, well, at least Australia are doing what they normally do, because it was always, in my knowledge, it was always very difficult to get into Australia. And, for anything like that. And I also saw a programme once on the TV over here, and it was about employment. And it was the Australian people got first choice, basically. And if there was somebody else from another, if they were a foreigner, even if it was me, and and we both had the same qualifications, they would employ the Australian. And they had no qualms in whatsoever in saying that that's what they do, because they look after their own people first. And I just thought, well, that's good. And then all of a sudden, everything changed. They got rid of him. They voted him out. And I thought, well, what the hell's going on? So there was that knock-on effect. And it was at that point that I realised that Australia were basically following us down a pan.
Yes. Former Prime Minister Tony Abbott, he also went on to say that, he was talking about ISIS at the time, that ISIS is a death cult.
Yeah.
So he's been quite outspoken.
I think it was Tony Abbott, actually. I'm pretty sure it wasn't.
So within his own party, there was a leadership spill as well. And Malcolm Turnbull was voted in and Tony was voted out. Tony Abbott's the rightful leader, and that's upset the Australian people. I think that's why we've seen loss of Conservative seats as well, because of that move. I mean, we don't like being told that our choice is wrong. So that was a concern. Um, so yeah, look, I realise with regards to why they voted him out too, around the time there was that climate change summit,
Yeah.
and they needed to get rid of a prime minister who would not sign away our sovereign rights, and that's what occurred at that the global summit, was signing away our global rights, which I think it was unanimous because Malcolm Turnbull signed it, and of course Tony Abbott would not have, and so he was using every excuse, even some sort. It was just very sad to see that, but I think Tony Abbott will take power again one day, because I think they've seen how Malcolm Turnbull has not delivered for this nation. So. I forgot what you'd mentioned. Actually, there was a few things that you mentioned, and I've probably.
Well, I was going to touch on quickly before we go for one more quick break before we do the last part of the show. I just want to touch on something we both, not also many people are aware of, I don't think. I know I'm not good for all these mathematical things that they come up with, but they turn around and they say just to maintain your own culture, you need a birth rate of 1.2 per family, children.
That's right.
We're basically only just touching that, I believe, or we're 1.1 in the UK, which is in danger level.
Yes.
I think it's only still the USA, which is basically 1.2 per family, but that is only if you include the Hispanics in that. So if you took that out, they wouldn't be 1.2, but the rest of the world is down to 1.1, and in fact less than that in some cases. And the facts are, if you look at the Muslim breeding rate, you're talking about 5.6 or higher. So
Doesn't
eventually,
take a mathematician,
no. So work it out. You know, it doesn't take a mathematician. You're quite right, Rosalie, that at some point, if we do not cramp down on some sort of control, we will be the minority anyway. We will be bred out of existence.
May I say something that obviously is, you may consider off topic, but it's very much, I believe, is actually with topic, and that is the Western birth rate is highly affected by the abortion rate.
Yeah.
So we don't see a lot of Muslims aborting their own children. We have 130,000 babies aborted a year in Australia. We've got very poor adoption laws as well. We've got a very, very low. So if we reform those two laws, I mean, in Victoria we have up to 40-week abortion laws without anaesthetic for a healthy child, and it's just really sad. And I know that's a controversial issue on its own, but it's a reality. This is the figures that we're dealing with. So the abortion rate is highly affecting the Western birth rate. So until we address that, plus the Muslim immigration, we can say goodbye to our
There
nation.
is something that people aren't aware of, though, that is happening. There's certain things that are happening in the UK that I'm aware of. One thing that I'm aware of is normally when you go for a scan, I mean, I don't know if you've got children, Rosalie. I've got two.
Yes,
My son is 28 now. My daughter is 21. Now, you can now go and they'll tell you the sex of the baby. Muslim women are not told the sex of their child, because when they are, suddenly, a matter of days later, they're in with basically a miscarried child or a sudden problem where the woman is brought into early premature labour and the baby is born dead. Now something else and that's when they find out it's a girl.
It's sad, isn't it? You know, it's the
and
most
something
dangerous.
else that people aren't aware of that's happening is there is a case of, it's yet to be proved, but I can only go by what I'm being told by Muslim women who speak to me in confidence, where uncles will get their 12 and 13-year-old nieces pregnant, and the baby is then sold on to a member of the family.
Oh my gosh.
Because then the DNA matches. So there is other ways that we are, and so I don't think it's all just down to the fact that, yes, of course we do have, you know, I myself was very, very young. I've had multiple miscarriages. I've had a multitude of problems in my life. But I don't think it's all down to, there is obviously, we do have abortion in this country. It's not illegal, and most girls who get pregnant, it shouldn't be a form of contraception, but there are certain circumstances where, you know, I wouldn't force anybody to live through going through birth in certain circumstances. So we
No.
have to understand that.
Yeah, look, I think that, you know, I wouldn't put that past the Muslims having to do that, you know, as far as the male and female child. But we do have stats saying that 60% are of, I guess, they're of a Catholic or Christian background, and that's quite sad, you know, that this is occurring, the abortion rates. And but the problem is not look. I would never attack. I have friends that have had abortions. And would never judge, but our support systems are just not there. So they actually refuse to fund or even legislate counselling for the women before they go in for an abortion, because many regret it. Many do. And look, you know, I think there's actually this convenience abortions as well, like using it as a contraception. I mean, that really shouldn't be in the stats at all. You know, the whole rape idea gets thrown up as the whole basis for it, and you know,